And he asked about this DeWalt kit. Now this DeWalt kit is $200. So I'm going to show you what the kit is and what you get. This is it here. Actually, I'm sorry, it's $250. I picked this kit up for $200 myself. And then within half a day, they adjusted the price to $250. But it's still a pretty good deal. This deal ends on April 2nd. Making sure there's nothing tied to me on this picture. That's it there. So you get the XR oscillator, not the compact atomic series. You get the actual XR isolator. You get a 787, which is far from the best impact that DeWalt offers. We get the 777 from DeWalt. And then we get actually a very decent sander. Until recently, there's been a couple of new sanders to the market. We got the Rigid, the Bosch has come out with one. Until then, the Flex and this sander were among the best. And if you go from the Milwaukee, the original M18 sander, to this, is like night and day. So this sander is actually very, very decent. And for $250, you also get 2 batteries. So we're going to see what can we expect with this kit realistically. And then we'll probably compare some other tools so you guys can get an idea on what to expect versus other tools should you buy the kit or not. So I'm going to try to keep up with the chat. So I'm going to pull up the YouTube on my phone here, now that I've shown you that picture, and then we're going to get going. But I can hardly read the chat from way over here, and I think it'd be cool if I could keep up with what you guys are saying. So let's do that. It'd be cool if I could. M18 sander is terrible. It is. I'm confident that I can fight a tiger and win in a strong fist. I don't see why not. I'm going to... All right, man. What's up, Brothers Videos? Okay. I wish YouTube had an option to make the chat bigger so we could actually keep up with you guys. We're going to go with the 787 first. It's the Impact. We've got a fully charged battery and a not so fully charged battery here. This battery is used though, so we'll see how long it holds up. Oh, okay, so first off, it does have a quick insert collet. I've been doing a lot of work on my roof lately. We got metal roofing, so Impact makes sense. And I've been using, is it here? It is not here. I've been using the Metabo. And as nice as the Metabo bolt is, it does not have a quick insert collet. And it's actually driving me crazy. So if quick insert collets is the deal breaker, if your tool doesn't have one, this does have one, and it pops the bit out pretty nicely. So quick in, quick out, pops right out. Heavier bits, does it also eject all the way out? No problem. So we got the quick insert. This is a 2.5 inch T25 here, and I've got to get you guys closer. Actually, that's what I got to do. Hang on. That's not a problem. Ish. I'm going to actually pan you guys over here a little bit. There goes that. All right, how fast can we expect this to screw all the way in? Here we go. Okay, let's show you a comparison so we can appreciate how far DeWalt has come with the speed. We'll use the same battery. This is the biggest, baddest DeWalt available. It's an absolute beast. Completely unnecessary for a homeowner. Let's see how fast it goes. So you compare that to the 787 here. But it works just fine. So your average, whatever you're trying to do, it can absolutely handle it. It's just going to be a little bit slower. Still a good impact. We still have a good value. At 250 bucks, we're getting the 787. And we've also got the 777, the drill, the sander, and the oscillator. So let's see what we can do with a bigger fastener. Let me check the chat. Let me see here. What's up, Kansas? We got Apache, we got Sharush, and we got John. Hello, brother. How you doing, bro? What's going on, John? I have a feeling this is for John. I think John emailed me. I had an email from John. You're welcome. This was a special request, so we're doing this video for some random guy that emailed me. If you guys email me any question, I'm going to do my best to answer it. So that's what we're doing here. I'm going to try to get a T30, I think is what I need. So give me a second. That might be a T40. Nope, that's T30. Okay, bigger screw. Probably as big as you'll ever use as a homeowner. Got the 787 here. And then we're going to try the drill. What's up, Owen? What's going on? All right, here we go. So it actually spins it. Once it's tight, it does continue to spin it, which not too bad. Could be worse. Could definitely be better. Not bad. Let's see what a surge can do for us. 12 volt surge versus a 20 volt fairly old market impact there. Here we go. So yeah, as much as some people on YouTube, you know, they want to say how terrible a tool is, this is still a usable tool as far as today's standards are concerned for the average person. So for 250 bucks, you're getting a $100 sander. I spent more for this sander by itself in the past. You're getting a $100 sander, and you're getting the multi-tool fell, but you're getting the $100 multi-tool. You're getting 2 batteries, and then you're getting this impact and the drill. 250, it's a good value. You just got to decide, are these tools good enough? Because 250 bucks is still a lot of money. It might make more sense to piece this kit together individually, spend more money ultimately, but have better tools in the long run. That's what we're trying to decide here. So let's try a even bigger lag here. This is a 1/4 inch. I think it's a 6 inch here. Let's see what we got here. Here we go. So basically, if you are woodworking, looking for something to build something, occasional use, and you like the value, what you want to get. Hang on, guys. What's going on, buddy?
What's up?
Hey, we're live on YouTube. Hang on. Let's go to the phone here. All right. So this is the YouTube phone. We've got a live burner phone, and you guys can call about troubleshooting questions. You guys can call about tool questions, code questions, whatever you want. I'm an electrical inspector. My buddy's got a troubleshooting question, I think, and we're gonna see what he's got. What you got, man?
So we originally installed a customer supplied spa panel that came with a manufacturer spa.
Okay.
It's an MOO GE 4 circuit, or 4 space, I should say.
Okay.
And it came with two 2-pole GE GFCI breakers. Originally installed it, did all of our voltage checks, everything, took our pictures, everything was good to go. About a month later, customer came and noticed that the pumps weren't running, so he went to the small panel right there, turned them on, and they sparked. So when we got there, we noticed that on the back side of the breaker, where the neutral connects, the breaker sparked internally. There was no touching of any metal. None of the loads were touching anything else. It was basically on the backside of both of those breakers. They both did it. And they shot carbon out onto the plastic part of the panel. Okay?
Okay.
So we did all of our checks. Everything looked good. We went ahead and just replaced the breakers because we couldn't. We ohmed out the lines. We didn't use a megger, but we did continuity checks from the spa disconnect to the breaker, and everything checked fine. So we made the decision to go ahead and replace the breakers. Well, one of the breakers holds all the time. The 20-amp 2-pole holds all the time. It does some non-important functioning of the equipment.
That's not a GFCI breaker then, right? That's a standard 2-pole 20-amp breaker.
It is a GFCI breaker.
Okay, GFCI holds, and that does not lights and not motors.
Correct. Not lights, not motor. I'm not really quite sure what it does. It might do some switching, some relay switching in the board. I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
Then the 2-pole 30-amp breaker, we replaced it. And when we replaced it, nothing seemed to happen, and then it just tripped, right? We didn't have any leakage or any voltage going in between ground and neutral. So we decided to take the load wires off of the breaker and turn it on, leaving the neutral pigtail from the GFCI breaker to the neutral bar. We left that on. You can turn it on, and within a minute, it'll trip. Okay?
So it takes about a minute to trip.
Takes about a minute to trip.
So it acts like an overload. Attached. It acts like an overload more than a short.
Correct, but that's with no load attached. You can take all the load wires out, including the neutral, and just have the neutral pigtail from the breaker to the neutral bar, and it'll trip.
Okay. What's the chance that there was a surge? And
a surge?
Yeah, a surge that did some electronic damage.
So electronic damage to what? Because that 2-pole 30-amp breaker, it's not connected to anything, and it's a brand new breaker, right? Like the only thing that's connected from the breaker is just the neutral pigtail to the neutral bar. The two hots going to the spa and the neutral going to the spa are not connected to the breaker, and it'll still trip. Okay. Now, if you connect all of those to the breaker, it'll trip under load faster, but when you check ground to neutral, there's no leaking of voltage. Like the voltage doesn't go from 0 to 10 to 20 or whatever when that happens. So that tells me that the ground, there's no floating neutral or anything like that, right?
Yeah, okay, let me check some chat here. So Josh, Apache Helicopter here says pigtailer plug on. We said that it was a pigtail. And then he said power is going back on the neutral. Neutral to ground shows 0. When you do a voltage check, you got neutral to ground 0.
That's 0 volts neutral to ground. There's no leakage or there's no grounding issue.
Do you have a millivolt meter that'll do millivolts?
Yep. Yeah, we were getting 0.000.
0.000.
When that breaker does trip though, like with no load attached, and you just have the neutral pigtail to the neutral bar, we did take our multimeter, ground to neutral, and when it trips, it'll go from 0 to 0.001. Or to 0.01. But that's with no load, right?
Interesting. Hang on 2 seconds. The DeWalt kit does not come with the DeWalt shirt, and you are correct. The sander and the OMT alone makes this kit worth it. The question is, would you rather piece this out? The truth is, if you needed a sander and a multi-tool, the kit's already worth it, guys. But if you're wondering what the drill and the impact can do, we're about to check that here in a second. We just did the impact, did an 8-inch, quarter-inch, thickness on the leg. Now we're doing some troubleshooting. Sorry, got to adjust the chat. Let's see here. So that's a new GFCI breaker then that you've replaced already once.
Yep.
Okay. Somebody says check your bus bar. They don't trust your bus bar. You check the.
So you can take that breaker. You can take that breaker and swap it because there's only 4 spaces, right? You can take it, put it in the other 2 spots, and it'll still do the same thing. But you can take the 20 amp 2-pole that holds correctly under load or not under load, and you can swap it and it'll hold in either spot.
Have you seen a real-time amperage when it trips or no?
No, because that's the hard thing, right? Because it'll trip without any load on it.
But it still trips. When you disconnect the load, like you just have the breakers in the panel and you hook up the GSCI breaker neutral pigtail to the neutral.
Right.
And the neutrals are isolated at all the subs and the grounds are isolated at all the subs and nothing's touching, right?
Right.
It still trips after a minute?
Yes.
Bring that breaker to my house. Plug it in my panel. I got a GE.
It's still in the stall. I didn't take it out.
That's crazy.
I have the 2 original ones that internally sparked. I have them on the truck.
Yeah, so the internally sparking is an interesting feature for those breakers, man. I've never seen something spark so violently like that. Like you said, it shot soot onto the back of the panel. That almost sounds like someone was doing something and didn't tell you something.
Right?
Yeah.
So the sparking, I know whenever I was
Owen says he's seen them zapping, but it's GE, man, so you never know. Apache says try another breaker. Also says, but not extra. Okay, that's a battery question. Owen says it's also totally possible to buy a burnt up breaker or a bum breaker. Yeah. And someone wants to know what kit this is. I would have to look that up on my other phone. It's at the beginning of this live if you guys want to scroll backwards. It's $250 on Lowe's. And let me get it for you. Sorry, I'm multitasking here. This is the kit here. The model number is the DCKSS for Sierra Sierra 431D for Delta 2. Right there. Probably going to be backwards. And it comes with everything minus the live right there. It's possible you got a bad breaker, man. Something made those breakers spark. Owen says he's seen them shoot sparks before.
Those GFCIs?
Yeah.
Like he's seen them.
He's seen them zapping
like that.
Oh, and when you say you've seen them zapping, are they just like chilling, zapping, or have you seen them being zapped, or what? Also, guys, I got my kit for $50 less than what that price is, and that price is pretty good. So if you can get this kit for $200, it's definitely a steal. I've got the kit with the 850 and the 805 drill. It is a good kit. It's about $350 though. I'm waiting for Owen. He says any brand, they get loose and make plasma. So maybe it's just loose. You checked the busing and didn't see anything wrong with the busing?
Yeah, so like the way that panel works, right, it's an MLO panel and the breakers are horizontal, not vertical. So the bus bars don't, like, A phase doesn't go in. Well, it's a single phase, so I'm referring for simplicity's term. A phase doesn't go, 1 inch, and then B phase comes in 1 inch the other way, and then A phase 1 inch from the left, and then B phase 1 inch from the right. Like, it doesn't do that. It's an MLO, and the breakers sit in vertically, and there's 4 prongs on the bus where the breakers just push in and snap.
Yeah, up and down. I know what you're talking about. I see a couple of those disconnects every once in a while.
So the behind those breakers, there's no busing for those breakers to touch. It's all plastic isolator.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's an interesting one. If you, well, I don't know. I was gonna say if you hook the neutral up to the ground and not the neutral to get the breaker to turn on, what happens?
What would that prove, though?
Nothing. That's why I stopped. That's why I stopped talking.
Okay. I mean, you're a smart guy, so maybe there's something I'm missing. So
no. I was like, it would prove that you have a dirty neutral is what it would prove, and it would prove that your ground is clean and your neutral is actually contaminated on a parallel path is what it would prove. But if your neutral is contaminated with the ground, then your ground should also trip the GFCI too.
Well,
but
if that's the case, then wouldn't the other breaker trip?
Yes.
Without a load on it?
Yes.
But it's holding.
Right. So I don't know, man. It is possible you got a bad breaker. I see it all the time, especially when I look at these hotels. There'll be 20 breakers per unit. They're all programmable, AFCI, GFCI breakers. And
right.
Every fifth unit that I go to, I'm going to find, at least one bad breaker. And that's why we check every unit, every circuit, everything, even though it gets really stupid doing the same thing over and over. You got to go in there and you physically got to touch every button and every panel to find out which one doesn't work.
Right.
And so, even more now, dude, the colors are falling off of the breakers. You don't even know if they're AFCI or GFCI.
Right. So here's my thought process on that.
Right.
If it's the most simplest thing that you can think of, it probably is that scenario that you need to do to fix it, right? So my problem in this instance is that the 2 original breakers that came from the manufacturer with the spa, they both did that funky, at the same time, funky arcing on the neutral inside the breaker somehow, right?
Yeah.
And then you go, the very next breaker you put it in and you install it, and it's a bad breaker. So we're 3 for 3 on QA/QC problems. and I just want to verify that we don't have another issue.
I mean, I almost feel like it's a problem with the spa itself. I feel like you're getting a sequencing
But if it
issue.
would be that, then you would have a problem with it under load, right? Because you can have that one. You can have both breakers with no loads attached, all load wires taken off, and both neutrals for
And it still
pigtails,
trips, right.
and one breaker will hold and one breaker will trip.
And it still trips. What about... One's a 30 and one's a 20, right? Let me check the chat here. What's up, John? We got another John in the chat. Oh, this is the John. What's up, buddy? We're doing your test. This was requested by John, I believe. Sent me an email for this live here. That we showed the impact, John, so you can compare it to some other ones. Fixing to check the drill, and then we got our burner found. The phone number I'll display here, or Josh can display it. You guys can call in about your troubleshooting or what you did today or what happened or what to do in what situation kind of thing. Got a caller on the phone right now. We're troubleshooting a spa disconnect. It sounds like a parallel path. Did you check to see how clean the grounding system was in the house?
In the house?
Yeah, so let's say that we've got a sub panel with a ground wire going to it, and it used to be a main, for example, whatever. And when they installed the new panel, they isolated the grounds and neutrals everywhere like they should, but they left the main service ground landed in the sub panel to something.
Yeah, we checked all that, and everything is fine.
I wonder what happens if you disconnect the ground and you only connect the neutral. Take the equipment grounds out of the equation, out of that sub panel, and run it and see what happens, because the GFCI doesn't need a ground. That's the whole point of GFCI. Disconnect all the equipment grounds, all the loads.
So disconnect the equipment grounds, and then as well as disconnect the equipment ground going to the breaker, right?
Yeah, disconnect it on the main side. And then verify that it's not bonded. It has a reference. Like, you should be able to hit your ground bar and get 0 volts. Make it so when you touch your ground bar to a hot in your sub panel, you have 0 volts. And then turn your GFCI breaker on. That'd be interesting.
So what is the theory behind that?
Dirty ground. Dirty ground, dirtying your neutral
like
somehow.
A corroded ground?
You could get some arcing, I suppose, as the load goes up. I don't know. I almost feel like it's a sequencing issue. Like, once the pumps start doing something, because it hits that main panel and then it goes to all your controls, because you got the separate spa disconnect, right? Or the separate spa kind of controller that powers all the motors and the lights and all that stuff, right?
Right, but
Oh yeah, it does it regardless, man. It's so strange. I keep forgetting that when it's not connected at all. So yeah.
Yeah, there's no.
Your next step is to make it so when you go to your sub panel and you hit your ground to your hots, that you have 0 reference to ground. And you've only got neutrals.
So you're saying taking the equipment ground off, so we'd have 0. There's no difference in potential in that spa disconnect, right?
Yeah.
So we would go from, like you're saying, hot to ground would be 0 volts.
Yes. Try that.
Okay. If we did that, then that would just prove to me that the ground is, we possibly have some sort of nick somewhere
Yeah, or you've got a gradient voltage because the power company can use the neutral. Can use the earth as a conductor. Um, so if you have a nick in an underground wire, this is why you got to bond pools. They're so dangerous. This is why you want to bond pools and make your deck the same potential, is because the earth can have a gradient voltage on it. So you could get an extension cord, plug into the earth by where the panel is, I suppose, or something, or where the wire's traveling. Go like 100 feet away with the extension cord and then plug into a different portion of the earth and see what your voltage is. That would also be interesting. Because if the power company loses their neutral and they're using the earth as their neutral, you're going to be, inserting current in around that area. That's not uncommon.
Yeah, I know for a fact they're not using the ground as their neutral.
Let me see the chat here. Let's see here. I'm riding with that too. Bad breaker. It's determined no voltage, even my neutral to ground. It has to be breaker. That's what Josh says. But one is doing it and the other makes me think it's the breaker. That's true. So we got two people think it's a breaker. Owen says it's the clips on the bar. Eclipse on the bar. He said eclipse on the bar, so he's verifying. Josh says he has the exact same panel in his backyard. Trying to catch up with the chat here. Call him. He will give you tomorrow winning lottery numbers. No. Let's see here. Somewhere there is a leak to ground with a matter of time. That small amount of voltage trips the GFCI breaker. Think it's capacitive. You could. What did we do? We used to for VFDs, frequency loads, things like that. If you have a shielded cable and you run it in EMT, you're double shielding, and the ground turns into a capacitor. And in certain situations, it can keep holding contacts from opening, even when you hit the e-stop. You physically open the contacts. You've got enough, dirty voltage, I guess you would say, to do something when you don't have shielding. You could have a capacitive situation with your ground where it probably is dirty and doing something crazy. You could run into that, and it could be a trace amount.
And only one breaker's picking up on it, the other one's not.
See, that's what's so weird, though. Yeah. So you take everything off of the breaker, you plug it into the panel, you land the neutral on the neutral bar, and the damn breaker trips after a minute.
Yes, sir.
Have you tried the breaker at any of the bus slot?
Yes.
Same thing.
Same thing.
I'm thinking it's the breaker, man.
Right. And that's what I was saying earlier. Like, in my mind, if it's something as easy, then it normally is that. But I just want to verify because of the two original breakers that had the internal arcing, sparking, and Ebola, as our IEC teacher used to say.
Ebola. Nice.
Right. With that.
So you replace both breakers, and one of them's doing this, basically. The other one's fine.
Correct.
With a surge, man, if it was a surge that did it, you can get movement in your grounds pretty easily. To where I was just at a house, I had a fluke meter with me, and it wouldn't read very many ohms. And I made a video saying how fluke couldn't read as many ohms as others, and everyone lost their mind, right? But it was a 321 series. It was like a homeowner grade fluke. But being fluke, you would think it's like the creme de la creme when it comes to multimeters. It starts off at $100. Why can't it read more ohms than a $15 meter? You know what I mean? And he had a trace amount of ground touching the insulation that was microscopically damaged on a wire that was touching a metal box inside of a plug. That was only tripping the breaker after about 3 minutes. Now, it wasn't a GFCI, as a standard breaker, but I guess once the circuit heated up, the wire moved, whatever was happening, it was very intermittent. And the only way we found it was to pull every plug out of the house and follow the minuscule amount of ohm reading that I got as I went through the house with my other meter, basically. So you could have that situation internally, but because it's not plugged into the load, I don't see that happening.
Right.
What about on the line side? It's got to be the breaker.
So we have two QA/QC problems with the original breakers that made them Spark Arc and Ebola, and then the very next breaker we have a QA/QC problem as well.
That's what it sounds like, man. I don't know.
All right.
I don't know. You could have a very sensitive breaker, and you could have something wrong, and one breaker's not tripping. Yeah. Either way, one breaker's bad. We got to figure out which one it is.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for the chat, and I will get back with you as I find some more answers.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting, like really interesting, if you disconnected the ground source out of that sub panel to where when you were reading it, you got 0 volts to a hot. Absolutely 0. Like no reference at all. I did it the other day on my panel because my panel in my garage does not have a reference. And we were messing with that live the other night. Where I could actually take a hot wire, attach it to my panel case, and the breaker wouldn't trip. It just energized the case. You know what I mean?
Right.
You want that going on with your situation, and then turn back on that GFCI to really rule out that it's the GFCI. Because that'd be free. Or you got to go buy a breaker.
Okay.
But yeah, if you want to bring the breaker here, man, we can plug it in here and see what happens.
All right.
Yeah, let me know. We can do a live on it.
Okay.
All
Thanks,
right,
guys.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, what's your thoughts on using aluminum conductors in residential applications? For feeders, it's just fine. Not the best idea for branch circuits, plugs, switches, lights, anything like that. Branch circuit would be something where it's leaving a breaker and then feeding a load in your house. A feeder would be something that is feeding a panel. A service would be the main disconnect to your house. So branch would be pretty much anything that you come in contact with your house on an everyday basis as an average person. Aluminum's no good for that. Breaker, breaker, breaker. Swap to plug on panel. Yeah. If he didn't have like an internal, most spas that you see that you hit them once with a 50 amp breaker and then they're like done. But he's got one that has multiple different kind of switch legs going to the spa. So he's got a separate 20 for this and a separate 30 for that, and some other things going on where he's got some internal controls on his spa. If not, I would say just throw it on a 50 amp Cutler Hammer spa disconnect and call it a day. But he can't do that. So that was his dilemma there. Okay. All right, let's get back to it. So we played with the impact a little bit. This is the kit that we're reviewing here. It's $249. It comes with everything you see there. Someone mentioned I'm curious if you guys could hear him. Hang on a second. Let me see. Situation with your ground where it probably is dirty and doing something crazy. You could run into that, and it could be a trace ML. Let me see. That was touching a metal box inside of a plug. That was only tripping the brake panel. Oh yeah, no, you guys can hear him good. Which one doesn't work? That's nice. That'll work. That phone number's on the screen if you guys want to call. At least Josh has it. Let's look at the 777. What can this drill do for us? We're going to use it as kitted. We're going to go with a 2-bar battery here. And we're going to back it up just a little bit here. I think we're going to get a something here. Let's get a magnet on this. We were playing with the magnets earlier last night. Let's just keep going. Let's see what we got here. So we are in drill speed 2. Okay, so it's got plenty of power for a 2.5-inch screw. That was speed 2, so speed 1's only going to give us more torque. And the screw is hot. Very hot. Here we go again. Yeah, sinks it, no problem. Let's try this T30 here. It'd be pretty impressive if it could do this, honestly. Let's see. In speed 2. It will sink it. It takes all the power the drill has. We can pop it into speed 1 here and sink the rest of it. And yeah, it has actually quite a bit of power for a very old. So we'll just go here in speed 1. Let's see. Yeah, it's fine. If we're to go with an impact here, this is the fuel surge. You see it's a fairly large lag. Let's try this 3/8 here. We should have the nut setter here. It might have fallen. We'll grab another one. Well, that's no good. Here's one. We'll go ahead and try it in speed 2 first. To remove it. Can't remove it. Put it into speed 1. Let's try it in speed 2. Battery still has 2 bars. That's where it stops there. So if we were to look at that, try to see if we got a gauge here. We could call it just to the top of this right there. If we stand that up like that. over time, if you were to upgrade your arsenal and go with a power stack battery here, what can you expect for a cheaper upgrade? Talking $60 after a couple of years. These batteries start wearing out. You want to get some newer technology. What can we expect with a power stack battery with a very old drill? Let's see. About the same, actually. Very close to the same amount. So, what does it take to get a performance improvement here? Let's try the 5.0 power stack. Screw right here. You know, it's about the same, which makes me think we're probably hitting the limit of what the motor can handle. And it's got an internal shutoff here. So let me try to throttle this trigger very slightly without full bore. And let me see what it's going to give us. Oh, I forgot what I was doing. Here we go. So you see where we get a little bit further. If we throttle the trigger just a little bit and don't give it full bore, the internal, you know, it's got a limiter in there that's not going to allow this thing to pull a certain amount of amperage. So as we kind of throttle this, it does give us a little bit more capability. We're going to try it again. Let's throttle the trigger ever so slightly. Yeah, we got a little bit further. That's the difference of, you know, really pushing these tools to the limit or being smart with how you're treating a tool. Try one more time. Noticeable improvement. Now, we can get this far with this lag. We still haven't even tried speed 1. And now we're going to drive this thing the whole way. Here we go. Yeah, plenty of power. Went all the way through. Where you're probably going to run into, you know, trouble with this drill is probably you're trying to do like a DIY, cut out a vent for your bathroom or something like that. Trying to put a 4-inch hole saw on this or something. Definitely not what the drill is for. So if you think that you might be on that level, you might want to skip something of this caliber. But for $250, we've got a more than capable impact and driver here that can do. Is it hot? I don't want to burn myself. This thing gets so hot. Hang on. They can do a lag this big, no problem. Almost in speed 2. So then we got the sander. We talked a little bit about this. This is actually a very, very decent, capable sander. It just hits harder. It's hard to explain. It really, the difference of this versus the Milwaukee, it just feels like it hits harder when it's sanding, if that makes any sense. It doesn't go any faster. It's just more effective and just does a better job. Feels very similar, it just does a better job than the older Milwaukee one. Kits are rip-off sometimes, yeah. The sander is top-notch. The sander is very decent. I would like to get the impact to see how it is. So I've got a lot of impacts here. Let's look at the, let me make sure I didn't take that out of the context. What was the, what are you referring that to, John? The new M12. I've got that on order. Yes, I've got the new M12 on order. The compact M12 is March, I think, gonna be here. That'd be nice, huh? What's up, Budsville? Top dollar and get a 1.5 amp hour battery. $100, but it's a crap battery. Yeah. So this was the impact here. The 787. We're all the way up to 870 now. There's three other impacts after this one. We had the 787, we had the 887. There's another one in between this. And then we did the 840, the 850, the 860, and the 870. That's how old this impact is. Pretty slow, but can do the job. Let's compare it to the 850. Compared to the 850, 2 bars, standard 2. $850 is pretty decent for the size. You can see where both impacts can get the job done. They're both definitely hitting where the impacts are starting to get closer together. It's definitely struggling to, fully send it in there. Both of them are, one more than the other, but both, still a capable impact, especially for a homeowner. And then we got the OMT here. This comes with the kit. This is probably one of my favorite OMTs. I've got the Flex. I've had the Milwaukee. The quick change here. It's got variable speeds. And then it's got a variable trigger. That's maxer on 1. Here comes 2. And then we got speed 3. So you've got control down here, and then you've got your finger for control here. You got one of the better blade changers on the market. It's not the most powerful, but damn, it's good. And it's the XR version. This is the best version of this, along with the best version of their sander in the kit. So the whole reason for this live, somebody emailed me. And they said, hey, is this kit worth it? Thinking about getting it. I can't make that decision for you. All I can tell you is what the tools can do. There's certainly better impacts and drivers out there. There's not a better OMT. And there's not a better DeWalt sander. I don't think. I think that's the best DeWalt sander right now. If it's not the best, it's still a very, very good sander. Hope that helps you out. If you got any questions, email me. Let's see here. It sounds like music, yeah. Do you know if the 850 has a trigger issue like the 787? I have not seen any trigger issues on my 850. I've seen trigger issues on my 845. I've had a motor issue on my 840. Hang on. Hey.
Hey, it ended up being more because I thought about it and I need to get stuff for the Valentine's Day party next week and Valentine's Day stuff, and so I got a little bit more.
That's fine. I'm live right now. You need anything?
I was asking if this truck was going to pull into anywhere on the way home to get something in me.
Well, hopefully that truck doesn't pull into Sonic and bring us all ice cream. That'd be terrible.
If it does, what would you like?
I want a cranberry limeade and an ice cream.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, love you. Gotta go. Bye.
Let me get Bye.
You guys ever driving down the road and your truck just turns into Sonic? It's terrible. Did we agree the bus bar is messed up as well? He switched the breaker to different bus bars all around there. So the breaker that's holding that was landed on that bus bar wasn't tripping. There's so many things it could be. We crossed that possibility, but kind of ruled it out as well. Yours came with 1.3 batteries when you bought yours. The first one made lightning. Has to be basically, yeah. That's true. That's true. If it made lightning, the bus bar is probably toast. Also, if it made lightning, something probably happened. Someone's not telling somebody something. Cleaned it up. And probably blew the crap out of some controls. And now the GFCIs aren't happy. I don't care what anyone says. The DeWalt 12-volt Extreme has been great. Even the bandsaw and STS rotary hammer are nice. I agree, man. I like the STS on the M12. I like it more than the not the M12, the 12-volt Extreme. I like the 12-volt Extreme line a lot. A lot. The 12-volt Extreme, I gotta find it. Here it is here. Let's see what it's got. Here we go. It was a good try. It was a good try. Let's see this. I'm actually going to get the Milwaukee driver here in a second. Your 12-volt Extreme DeWalt. There you go. Not too much the Milwaukee can't do, really. See if we can do this. This is a 6-inch. See, that's a lot of power. That's a lot of power for the DeWalt. Let me go get the Milwaukee. Here's the deal with the Milwaukee. I've never used it. It came with something. Came in a kit with something. Or maybe I bought it by itself for like 60 bucks. I can't remember. It is a nice drill. This thing, for the size that it is, it has too much power. I hope that makes sense. Milwaukee's really good about putting too much power in a small form. This thing has too much power for how small it is. And then it lacks power where it needs it. So, for example, if you're drilling through metal with a hole saw and you're trying to keep this in speed 2. So, speed 1, this thing has monstrous power. Speed 2, it doesn't have enough power. And I'm going to show you what I mean right now. Let me show you speed 2. Okay, so very similar to the DeWalt. A little bit more RPM, which is going to give it less torque. Definitely capable of doing it. But you can see how much torque it has. Once you get to that point where the drill starts to fight you, you kind of run into a situation where you're better off with the drill having more power and just sending the screw than the motor slowing down and then trying to speed the tool back up to maintain the RPM so it can drive the screw. When this starts driving and the motor starts slowing down, the torque ramps up as the speed decreases and you start to get a little bit wild with the drive, right? I hope that makes sense. If I take a really powerful drill, if we take something really powerful, like this has way more power than the M12, I'm going to demonstrate here what I'm talking about. Where is a flex battery? Hang on a second, guys. Gotta grab a flex battery. Here's one. This is probably the fastest, most powerful combination, right? This is just going to send it. It's not going to do anything else other than send it. That's it. When we go to start driving this, you're going to see where this starts to fight me because it lacks the power. It can still do it, but it lacks the raw power. So then you start fighting the motor. And when you start fighting the motor, the speed starts ramping up on the throttle and you get a less consistent drive. I'll do it again with the flex. And it's in, right? When these tools slow down, let's go right here. Let's go. It's warm. When these tools slow down, they start to kind of fight you. Also, we kind of timed it out there. So it didn't fight me, it just stopped driving. And try again. Let's see if it's going to time out or not. If it times out again, it's not going to do it. But yeah, I've got to kind of turn it to fight. And we did time out again, by the way, on that. When you put it in speed 2, it has way too much torque. So I don't like, or speed 1, sorry. I don't like driving my drills in speed 1. I think that it's dangerous to drive a drill in speed 1. If you've ever ran a drill in speed 1, you'll know that they're stronger than what you guys can hold on to, typically. I've been flung like, off of ladders and things like that in speed 1, drilling through a 1/2-inch beam, for example. If you're using speed 2 and you're not forcing the tool and you're throttling the trigger, when you come towards the end of that drive, as you puncture through or you get to the final stage of the fastener, the drill kind of stops itself and you're still stronger than the tool. That's what I prefer. I don't need something that I'm drilling that's like a knife, sheet metal style, spinning as I'm trying to drill through it, or throwing me in a direction as I'm trying to drill through it. So this drill here, speed 1, has a lot of power, but doesn't have enough RPMs to really keep up with what you're trying to do. So when we put this into speed 2, it doesn't have enough power to really use it as a hole saw. And then it has too much power to where it's just too damn powerful. So the usefulness of this is almost zero for me, because either it's too powerful or it's not powerful enough to keep the consistent RPM, I guess is what I would say. I would rather have a tool that just simply couldn't do it, like this, that just drives and it doesn't try to do too much, because you run into that situation where you want to pop this in speed 1. Watch what speed 1 does with this, man. This thing has a lot of power. I'm just going to squeeze the trigger. Watch what my hand does. I just threw everything off the bench. Actually, hang on. I'm pushing here. And it's really fighting. Like, this thing has an insane amount of power. So you really got to be bracing for the impact to drive this thing. Because the handle's so short and your grip is up here versus kind of across the whole tool, you're kind of like compacted up here to where you're not really ready for the amount of torque because you're grabbing in such a small surface area. It forces your elbow this way when you're least expecting it. On this, where the battery is this heavy and you're kind of either supporting with the battery or you're supporting up here and you've kind of got all this going on up here, you've got more leverage with the length of the tool and the natural kind of shape of it to where you can control this a little bit easier than you can this. I actually hate this tool. It's too powerful for the size. And now you know that is a thing. The other thing, this metal clip is dangerously close to your hand here. That's just where they put it. So when it does flex, your hand goes right up on the metal every time. I'm trying to show you. And that's another reason why I hate this, but just in general, too much power in speed 1 and not enough power in speed 2. See, timed out. Too small as well, no grip. Yeah, it's got just the shape of it. It's a very powerful tool, very impressive, but just not how you have to grab it. Even the DeWalt has a better handle for leverage, but the DeWalt lacks power, so it's kind of perfect. But the length of the handle is all the way here. This puts you at an angle, and you're not even flat with the tool here. You're kind of holding it at an angle. You're holding this flat. See, my hand's more up and down. My thumb's here. Hand's more, canted to where the handle is. It's just a weird way of holding it, man. This thing has a lot of power though, but not enough to do hole sawing. So why do I need a drill that can't do hole sawing in speed 2? Basically, I always run my holes in speed 2. Always. Safer. Lakers reviews, but your bank has a few questions to ask him. I hate M12 angle and grip. It's no good. I know they're good and blah, blah, blah. I've used them, but no more. Use the 6-inch hole saw in speed 2. Yes, that is the way to do that. You can actually bog down the drill. Put a 6-inch hole saw in speed 1, dude. It's game over. I kind of want to drill something metal But I also don't want to like hurt myself. Let me go get. Let's go get it. Let's go get it because we got to check out these Diablos. We might just go. My garage is a mess again. My garage is always a mess. Got a freaking shoe up here. What the hell? Let's see if we got any metal. We have a box here. We have metal. Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. Actually, no, we can't do that because it's got these right here. I can actually show you something interesting with the M12. I can show you why you don't want to drill with an M12 with this actually pretty easily. The question is, do I want to do it in that room or in here? I'm more set up in that room. Let's go in that room. I'll show you what happens with the M12. But I'm going to leave, you know, metal shavings everywhere. That's going to suck. It'll be better for you guys, though, to see it. All right, so you're going to see what happens when your drill slows down and then tries to maintain the speed, because we're probably going to rip this thing right out of there versus just drilling with a regular drill. That's what we're going to try to do. First, we need to install this so it's a little bit safer. I just wrote somebody up for installing a box this way. Perfect. Okay. We got our Diablo. We're going to go with the 1 1/8, which would be 3/4. We're also going to go with the hole saw here. Now we're going to do something smart here. We're not going to install this yet. We're just going to drill our hole like this. And yeah, we'll use the M12. I hate it, but we're going to use it. We'll mark our hole first. Right there. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in speed 2. The spring is crooked, not the bit. Okay. We're going to push down all of our weight like this, and we're going to go nice and slow. We're just going to just barely give it a little bit like this. We're through. Now we can give it what I would call a quick kind of clean out, like a quick spin here. Did you see how it jerked like that? If this was in speed 1, that could have been a bad day. So we're going to clean it out like this. Now we're going to go also in speed 2 here. And we're going to listen to the drill completely slow down. There you go. Finger's still on the trigger there. Light is still on. We actually timed out. I'm going to show you again. There you go. Flashing light. I'm going to do it again. I'm actually going to give you guys a better view. Flashing light. Right? If we put this in speed 1 to complete this task, it gets very dangerous very quickly. Did you guys see whenever I was in speed 2 and we pulled the trigger and the whole drill jarred because it caught? If this was in speed 2 or in speed 1, we probably could have ripped the metal off of this and flung it somewhere across the room. That's what this will do in speed 1. We can drive this whole lag in speed 1, no problem. We just drilled a small hole in speed 2, Let me show you why I use speed 2. So we're going to get the flex here. Or you know what? Let's get one of my favorite DeWalts. Let's get the 800 because it's compact and underrated. This is 800. The 805 has a hammer drill. This is just a driver. I bought it for like $350. Came in a kit with the 850. One of the only ways I could get the 850 that made sense. And yeah, got the 20-minute light feature. In speed 2, it can do this job. Here we go. So you can see as you're drilling, right, it does catch and it does slow down. You just give a little more throttle and it speeds right back up. If we were to pull the trigger harder in speed 1, it could catch aggressively. So we have about this much trigger pulled on the drill itself. You might say we're drilling pretty fast. This isn't even going to be hot. I can grab this. I can actually hold this bit. So if you guys are thinking I'm drilling too fast, you guys just don't know how to drill. I can completely hold this in my hand. You're going to say you're probably burning up the bit because you're going too fast. I'm simply not. We can completely hold this in our hand. We're not burning this bit up. We're drilling smart by taking our time. We're pushing a lot of pressure. And we're getting a consistent cut all the way around here is what we're doing. We're not burning up the hole saw. This is a thicker hole saw. It's not like the skinnier ones. So you can see the thickness of the hole saw. So it does take more torque to run it. And we're through. And that's it. And then this pushes the slug out. It's kind of cool. Nice set from Diablo. Very nice set from Diablo, actually. And we did that without, like this is kind of floating. It just has a little screw right there holding this together. I'm going to get my vacuum. Hang on a second. Okay, on behalf of all electricians, I'm sorry you had to watch me vacuum. Let's see what the chat says. Love the DeWalt stuff. The extreme stuff stinks. I agree with you, man. It's lacking power compared to the other stuff. If you just rock this thing, man, it's a game changer. This thing has a lot of power for the size. Angela, what's up, Charlton? Who are you, tricking boy? What's up, swear? Shh, I'm lurking. Whoever taught me how to drill should go to jail. Right on. Oh, Lefty Lucy. So the camera's backwards, just like my DeWalt's backwards. The camera's backwards. So we were driving in Lefty Lucy, righty tighty. So right, I guess. We were driving in forward. But the camera makes it look backwards. Sorry. Kids are here. Ice cream's here. That's all the time we got. We're gonna get out of here. We'll see you guys. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps you out, John. Make a decision. At $250, it's not the best price, but you get a lot in the kit. And feel free to email me if you got any more questions. conductivewood@gmail.com. Saw a tool pouch on your Klein toner video. What pouch is that and model? Which one? Email me, conductivewood@gmail.com. Send me the video link or something, and I will let you know. I'll respond back to you. Conductive, like electricity, wood, like woodworking, @gmail.com. My kids are loud. I'm doing you guys a favor. We're getting out of here. It's okay.
Are you gonna?